I usually like to be level-headed about these kind of results. A 3-2 loss to Eintracht Frankfurt, well, it's chaos. There's a lot to it. Barcelona were blown off the pitch for the first 70 minutes or so, and then they let Culers believe a little bit late, but still, we all knew what seemed to be a foregone conclusion because of the way that Barcelona started the game. So keeping all that in mind, I also wonder if this says anything at all, about the bigger picture for Barcelona this season and what it could mean for next year. So without further ado, let's do it, as much as I don't want to. The 5 headlines from Barcelona's 3-2 loss to Eintracht Frankfurt in the Europa League. 1 is crashing out. I don't mean to be so cold and calculated about this, but I wonder at the end of all this what the stakes were of this. Well, firstly, this means that Barcelona won't be winning the Europa League, meaning they won't be in pot 1 for the Champions League draw next season. Now, it does seem like that is something you certainly want to avoid, the Bayern Munichs and the PSGs likely of the world. But if you can tell me which pot the last 5 winners of the Champions League were in, well, you know more than me, and I don't really think it truly matters as long as Barcelona is the best team in Europe next season. Part 2 of the stakes was that 15-game unbeaten streak is over. It was bound to happen sometime, but it's the way it happened, the match in which it happened. Even though Barca fought on late, again, being blown off the pitch the way that they were for so much of it, it would be less disappointing, but again, they were totally outplayed for 70 minutes, and by that time, there weren't many answers left. So yeah, 15 games unbeaten is a tremendous mark. And as I said, it was bound that it was going to end. If you're a Kool-Aid, maybe you would have chosen for it to end against Levante last weekend or Cadiz on Monday, then against Eintracht Frankfurt when now you're out of this competition. A competition that, looking around at who was left, Barcelona should have felt like they were the dominant team, and they should have been. And stake number 3 is the one that I think is the most concerning and the one that is continuing to be an open-ended question. I brought up after El Clasico that match did feel like a bit of a turning of the page. That defeating your rival 4-0, destroying them at their house, made it feel like Barcelona could show up in a big night. But I still have a question about what a big European win looks like for Barcelona. Because I know that every time they've done it, right? Napoli, that was part of moving them forward. But yet again, in Europe, in competitions that we know are very, very random. No offense to Villarreal, but them beating Bayern Munich does not mean that Villarreal was a better side in 2021-2022 than Bayern Munich. And for them, it was over the course of 2 legs. For Eintracht Frankfurt and Barcelona, they were even after 1. So Eintracht Frankfurt were better than Barcelona for 90 minutes. And that seems to be the case for FC Barcelona, not just now, but almost all time. That if this team is not the better team, the more dominant team throughout a season, they're just not going to get the results when it comes to those big European nights. I don't know if it's the pressure. It's a lot that goes into it. And we're going to talk about more about what happened and went wrong tonight, because that's my take on the big picture. There are some things to worry about, and there are other things that I'm not too concerned about, and I'm still looking forward ahead to next year. And I don't think a loss here, winning the Europa League or not, is going to change what next year Ansu Fati and a bunch of transfers will hold. I want to thank OneFootball for sponsoring this video. OneFootball is the app I use to keep myself up to date on all things FC Barcelona, everything I need to know, as well as check on every other team that Alemany could be scouting right now for a big summer transfer window. With a custom-tailored homepage, stay up to date with breaking news, live scores, and even transfer news. While on the go, you can check with matches in live time and watch videos afterwards. Use the link in the description for a free download of OneFootball on Android or iOS to put all of your football in one place. And you'll help out a tiny Barca channel too. Thanks to OneFootball again for sponsoring this video. Now back to the Barca business. 2 is Camp Nou, home of Eintracht Frankfurt fans. What a weird thing this was. It really felt kind of surreal. And on the podcast, we're going to talk to Levon, that'll be out in a few hours, somebody who was actually there at the game. Because of all the rumblings and things we were hearing about it, yeah, it was just weird how many Eintracht Frankfurt fans made the trip and were able to get tickets to this game. So it's hard to know what exactly happened. Again, I'm going to have probably more answers in the coming minutes and hours. But what was it? A lack of desire from Barca season ticket holders, and I think more out of apathy of going to the stadium for any number of reasons than greed of selling tickets. And combine that, though, with all the Germans that were willing to travel, and it was a weird atmosphere even through the TV. And clearly those in the stadium fully understood what was happening with all the white shirts. The section behind the goal in protest didn't even come out in the second half until that fantastic opportunity by Aubameyang from Dembele again. So yeah, just surreal moments at the Camp Nou. And it's one of those stadiums that kind of shouldn't be taken over, but a sheer number of Kool-Aids, a sheer number of Barcelona fans that there should be. And I am curious to know truly how many there were, or if they were just getting advantageous tickets. And I don't know how they got that. Again, we have to figure this one out and get to the bottom of it, because I do think that atmosphere did play some kind of role. It's not the prevailing factor. It's not the number 1, maybe even not the number 10 factor. But I think when at home, Barcelona players are not, we'll say, in control of their own atmosphere for the first time, maybe ever. I mean, Dembele, maybe it's why he played so well. He's the only player who's really comfortable being jeered and booed as much as you heard those jeers and boos tonight. Whether it was from Barcelona fans being frustrated with the team's performance or the opposition fans letting Barcelona fans know how excited they were by how poorly they were playing. 3 is another awful start. I told you about the big picture stuff before and what I'm not concerned with, but I am concerned with 3 poor starts right in a row. Eintracht Frankfurt, Levante, and then Eintracht Frankfurt again, and this time at the Camp Nou. This time around, that awful start winds up biting them, and this 4th-minute penalty certainly shifted that match completely on its head. 5 penalties now in 3 matches is completely unacceptable, and Eric Garcia, it's not even going to defend him or not defend him. The problems with Eric Garcia kind of all came to a head today. Eric Garcia making a mistake within the first 4 minutes, wrapping his arm around Lindstrom. That can't happen. Whether he needs to bulk up, whether he needs to make better decisions in his own box, because he certainly does. 2 penalties in 2 games, yeah, completely unacceptable from Eric Garcia. No defense of him now. I'm not going to defend the player he'll be in 3 or 4 years, because that's what we seem to do. That these mistakes today means that even next season, he couldn't have learned, he can't bulk up, he can't improve at all. I'm hoping to see those improvements. But certainly, this Eric Garcia, the one who's made mistakes in back-to-back games, desperately needs Gerard Piqué beside him to help him out, add some leadership at the back there. But he also needs to just improve on this in general, or else he's going to be out of the lineup. Is it for Lenglet? No, but it'll be for Andres Christensen next year, when Eric Garcia might not sniff the field at all if he's the 3rd center back behind Araujo, Piqué, and Christensen. And Barcelona had a harder time fighting back today than they did against Levante, because this German side has been to the Europa League semifinal in recent seasons. They're the only team left in the competition that's even won the dang thing, even though it was 40 plus years ago. It's still a little bit of history that these teams do latch on to. And I know it doesn't really matter from game to game or season to season, but I think it does mean something when they feel like it's their right, it's their club's right to be a part of that final picture to win that cup. And as far as what Barcelona couldn't seem to fix, Eintracht Frankfurt were just going right down Broadway, right up Main Street through the center of the field. And that Rafa Borré, I know I'm skipping ahead to the second goal, but that Rafa Borré with a long-range effort off the turnover from Barca in their own half, that really summed up this match to me. Barcelona weren't good enough, even if they had the lion's share of possession. And then Eintracht Frankfurt were ready to jam it right down their throat, and they did just that. They had the quality and the class to get it done today. While Ter Stegen couldn't have done anything on the second goal from Borré, he didn't have much to do on that PK either, because you either save it or you don't, so I don't really fault goalkeepers either way. Okay, but the third one, I think he actually could have done a bit better, and so could have Dest on that second shot from Kostic. And at that point, Barcelona, all the wind had come out of their sails. Little did they know that they could score too late on. And I feel like for the first time this season, this is the concerning thing. For the first time this season, this team kind of didn't believe anymore. Even when that second half started, I just wasn't sure that they believed that they could come back. They created so many opportunities, if you will, but as far as attempts on goal, Eintracht Frankfurt still ruled the day in that category. And it wound up being too little too late. Yeah, it was the offside for Busquets. If he had stayed onside, could have really changed the match, certainly. But then he gets that long-range missile, does Busquets. Now you finally see a little bit of belief, but oh gosh darn it, it's in extra time. Then that PK from Memphis Depay comes a minute before, a minute after the game is supposed to be over. So too little, too late from Barcelona. If they showed that kind of fight and that kind of desire in the 65th minute, then Barcelona probably win that tie in extra time, to be honest with you. But still, the players, too little, too late, they held on to, I guess, not to say that they were being lazy or that they didn't want it enough, but clearly Eintracht Frankfurt went in with a plan and a mission, and they wanted to get that victory just more than those Barcelona players did today. And that's, I think, the part that's unacceptable. And if I'm saying it's unacceptable, I don't want to be in that locker room to hear what Xavi has to say to these players. I think that Cadiz, they could be destroyed 8-10-0 against Barcelona. But for Barcelona in the big picture, when these matches do matter, we'll say again, when it's against Real Betis for the rest of this season, Real Sociedad, I want to see Barcelona go out and completely crush opponents that are kind of at the level of Eintracht Frankfurt. 4 is that depth was tested. And yeah, I'm kind of talking about Mengetha here, but I think all around, you can see why Xavi is kind of waiting for the summertime. Yeah, he got 4 picks, and we've talked many, many times over what those January transfer targets did for this club. The way that it's the best January transfer window ever for FC Barcelona, completely turned around the season. But to take that next step forward, right? to get that European glory, even if it was in the Europa League. I don't laugh about that. The Europa League is still, any cup is a tough cup to win. Even the Copa del Rey, every single season. It's a mark of how good Barcelona as a club have been to win the Copa del Rey as much as they have. Even the Spanish Super Cup, it's a hard trophy to win. And the Europa League is no different. So I don't take anything for granted in the Europa League at all. But for Xavi, he's, I don't say trying to rotate, but losing Piqué and Lenglet completely playing himself out of contention against Levante, the choice was Oscar Mingueza. And for better or worse, I don't know if Dest would have done better from the start, even being unavailable. And I think you are a little afraid of an injury-prone Dest re-injuring himself or getting hurt. So Xavi didn't want to put him on the field for potential 90 minutes plus extra time. So instead, it was Dest coming on in the second half, but even though he was kind of culpable on that third goal, still a little too late for an upgrade at the position. Mingueza was not ready for this one. There was no distribution to Pedri on the right from Mingueza or from Araujo. And Mingueza just certainly wasn't ready for this. Positioning-wise, the speed of the game, moving the ball, just like Lenglet, he looked like a player who's been on the bench for way too long, who hasn't really featured. And this is too big of a moment to have him feature, but I guess Xavi felt like his hands were tied. And I didn't even necessarily agree with the decision to start Gavi over Frankie de Jong, but I do get it. What's most remarkable was that Pedri was the one taken off. It's unfortunate, but it's a truth that was the right choice. He was extraordinary for Barca for 2 months, but it wasn't his 40 minutes. And the big difference between Messi and Pedri that we've been talking about, right? The similarity is that these are these big moment players who come up big when your team needs them. And Messi did struggle sometimes in Europe, but he wasn't ever going to come off the field. Pedri at 19, if he struggles in 45 minutes, unlike Messi, when he basically owned the club, Xavi is able to take off Pedri when he's the one who needs to be replaced, which he was today. But again, I don't entirely fault Pedri because Mingueza and Araujo behind him were not giving him service. And instead for de Jong, his positioning was going to push the entire team forward. Like I said before, that de Jong was going to say, hey, the line of conversation has got to move forward, and we're either going to lose this match by more, which they did, 3-0, or 3-2 then finally, but you get it, they were down 3-0, or Barcelona were going to push forward and get a goal. 5 wingers were outstanding, and I guess I can end with a positive here. May I? May I end with a positive here? Because Ousmane Dembélé, yeah, it's a sad reminder that he is going to probably be leaving the club. But he was certainly up to this match. I can't say much for 9.5 of his other teammates. I think Ferran Torres definitely had his moments. But Dembélé, on both ends, offensively, he was going to be the answer to put a ball in the box, and somebody had to find a head, and they didn't today. And even defensively, even when he switched over to the left wing, and maybe he was tiring, he still fought. He still went and won the ball back in Barcelona's half. So Dembélé, kudos to him, hats off to him. For, as I said, the one guy that has truly been booed off the field by Culers already this season, he was the only one seemingly able to play in that atmosphere tonight. And the more unfortunate part is that as I praise Dembélé and Torres, Kostic was the best winger of all tonight, and the man of the match clearly got a brace. So unfortunately, Barcelona failed to a team that I think is deserving of some credit, but certainly not up to Barcelona's level and talent level and depth of squad. But even with Piqué and Ansu Fati, big miss still. With those kind of players out, Barcelona just don't have enough. And certainly, you look at this lineup, you look at the lineup that started this match, the Xavi is waiting to the summer for some upgrades. That was disappointing. It ends another competition for Barcelona, but there's still plenty of season left to go. Top 4 is not yet finished. And as I say, don't take these things for granted. So I do hope you enjoy some more Barcelona victories. There's a new unbeaten streak to start, I hope, against Cadiz. So I hope you stick back with us here. Podcasts, match reviews, all that stuff are still coming out, whether there's a Europa League title in the trophy cabinet or not. And until next time, as always, Forza Barca.